talk to my colleagues here quite regularly. And why is that? It's because there are so many commonalities among our three cities. For example, we share a region-wide mass transit system. We share a world-class minor league baseball team. We share a single area code. We share families, and by that I mean our residents in each of our cities have siblings, cousins, close relatives spread across all three of the cities. We share businesses. There are a number of businesses that work in Albany and Schenectady that also work in Troy and vice versa. We share a lot of nonprofits that serve the social and cultural needs of our residences. We also share very similar social and economic interests that directly affect the families and the residents in our respective communities. And for anybody as old as me, you may recall that at one time we also shared a common phone book. Splitting the current congressional district into two will have a direct impact on our representation in Washington. It will dilute our voice in Washington, D.C. The communities of Albany and Schenectady and Troy, we're strong partners. We collaborate often on common issues that impact our communities. As mayors, we're constantly in conversation about challenges that we share. These conversations reinforce the importance of a shared congressional representative who can effectively collaborate for us as a group in Washington, D.C. Separating these three cities into two separate congressional districts will significantly and negatively impact our clout in Washington, D.C. So we do urge the New York State Independent Redistricting Commission to preserve the Capital Region's largest communities in a single congressional district. And with that, I would like to introduce one of my mentors. Actually, both of these mayors are mentors to me, but the first mayor I met and worked with, Mayor Kathy Sheen from Albany. Mayor.
Thank you, mayors. And you know, you've said what needed to be said. This is a really important issue for our three cities. I think that we have worked together in ways that have advanced not only our cities but our region. And we also represent the communities where poverty is concentrated, the communities where we have, if you look across this congressional district, our black and brown residents are concentrated in these three cities. And I think dividing these three cities in any way will dilute that vote. It will dilute the strength that we bring and the advocacy that we bring for individuals who are most in need of having a strong voice for them in Congress and in Washington. We demonstrated throughout this pandemic that as we worked together, we were able to advocate for the funding that we needed to help our communities. We were able to work with our not-for-profits who worked seamlessly together to ensure that people had access to food, that we were doing all that we could to make sure that we were keeping people housed and that we were meeting the needs of our residents. And that happened because we were able to take our voices and channel those into a single voice in Washington, fighting for this congressional district. So it's critically important that these communities of interest stay together, stay strong, and that we continue to have the ability to work together with one voice and advocate as we do to ensure that we're getting our fair share and that we're doing all that we can for our communities. This isn't about a who right now, this is about a what. This is about what the future of this congressional district looks like and what type of voice and what type of strength exists for our communities of interest in our three cities. And we believe it's critically important that they remain together in one congressional district. And with that, we'll open it up to on-topic questions.
Mayor, well, any of the mayors, did the pandemic cause the three cities to work together at a level that perhaps you hadn't before, or did it strengthen the bond between the three communities due to the challenges early on and then advocating for the funding and receiving the funding, that sort of thing?
Well, as the person who was the local elected that was on the control room, certainly the relationships were already there. We've been working together for years. It started actually almost 8 years ago when we came together to apply for a public arts grant together and to take on a public arts challenge. We got $1 million grant from Bloomberg Philanthropies here, and it literally shined a light on the challenges that we all have with vacant and abandoned buildings, and it's resulted in policy changes and in significant advancements in our ability to address vacant and abandoned buildings. So we already had that relationship. But then under the control room, we met weekly. So after our control room calls, these mayors and the mayors from throughout this region, we met on a Zoom call, as everybody met back in those days, to talk about what we were experiencing, what we were hearing from our businesses, what we wanted to communicate back to the state and make sure that the state knew and understood the challenges that we were facing. And again, it was an area where many of the concerns that we had for the cities of Albany and Schenectady and Troy were very much aligned. Feeding people, making sure that we have the infrastructure and the support in place to help make sure that our families were taken care of.
Mayor Sheehan's really summarized it. We've had a long-term working relationship. The pandemic only added that because we were forced to deal with things that none of us really expected to deal with.
With the Independent Redistricting Commission, Governor Hochul just signed legislation over the Thanksgiving week for the legislature to step in if the Redistricting Commission remains deadlocked. It appears right now they have about a month to go to make a decision. They haven't made one yet. Do you support that legislation to give the state legislature the power to override or select the maps because of the deadlock?
I would hope that the commission is able to come to an agreement on the congressional districts and also the Senate and Assembly districts. But we see too many things, both in Washington and Albany, where sometimes at the local level we don't see the logic in the action and things get deadlocked and pushed back. And so I think the governor has acted appropriately to put that responsibility back and put a pathway there that's going to allow the districts to be in place so that we can move forward in a timely manner with the 2022 elections. I assume you'll ask that to the members of the Redistricting Commission. It's the city of Schenectady that gets cut out, and it's why I appreciate the support of my colleagues here. We're trying to get that message out that the reality is we belong in the same district. It serves our needs well, and it again strengthens the community. And I wish Binghamton well. I wish Syracuse, the other communities well. We have interaction with those, but the reality is the Capital District is a separate entity with much stronger commonalities in terms of problems and opportunities, and that we need that congressional leadership to stay the way it is basically now. Again, advocating for people to get vaccinated. I tell it continually, it's not what the president says, it's not what the governor says, it's not what mayors say, it's what our mothers told us when we're 5 or 6 years old. It's wash your hands, cover your face when you sneeze, do some of the common sense things. The mask is now part of that. I, by order, have a mask mandate within city buildings, and I encourage people again to wear a mask, and get vaccinated. And if you have been vaccinated, take the opportunity to get the booster shots that are now becoming more readily available.
On topic for Mayor McCarthy about the ARPA funds. You have some upcoming meetings or you're seeking the awards right now, the applications for the awards for the ARPA funds. Can you explain how that process is going to work, what people can expect, and how much is, I guess, up for
We're trying to stay on topic, but that is available on the city website, so that there's a application process so that we'll standardize it, get everything in, have a level playing field, do some internal review, and then be able to prepare recommendations going forward to the city council.
Then had one off something. You guys can all chime in if you want. So on the ongoing violence and the efforts to combat that, and obviously I know the state police, sheriff's office, kind of assisting you guys all within your districts.
Sorry, I didn't hear your preface on the whole thing.
Just talking about the ongoing effort to address violence, and I know there's been help from state police to address it, and then I know in Albany there's overtime pay in the city if you're asking the county.
Well, I think this is another reason why we all need to be in the same congressional district. We work together across municipal lines to address issues around not only the needs of our community, but around violence that occurs. Violence crosses municipal lines, and we have police departments and law enforcement at our local levels, as well as our county levels, as well as at the state level, that are working to do all that they can to keep our communities safe. It's another important thing that we're able to advocate for at the federal level. We all believe that there are too many illegal guns in our communities. It's another thing that we are advocating about together, and when we bring our voices together in one congressional district, those voices are stronger, and I think it makes our community safer.
Do you think the city of Albany should be giving overtime pay to, I guess, the county, helping them out?
Absolutely not. We pay county taxes. The residents of the city of Albany provide some of the largest proportion of property tax dollars to the county. The county sheriff has been very supportive of working within our community, just the way that he is when there is an uptick in drug overdoses in the hill towns. This is what government looks like when we work together, and I think that there are a few small voices on the county legislature who seem to feel differently, but I believe that our representatives on the county legislature strongly support the position that we have, which is that this is what we do when we work together in government. This is what our taxpayer dollars go for.
That's it for on-topic questions. I'm sure everybody will be available after. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.